The following story is a narrative reconstruction created exclusively for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real events, people, or situations is purely coincidental. If you enjoy stories like this, please consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not yet subscribed. The formidable steel door, a barrier meant to withstand the most violent assaults, didn't just open. It exploded inward with a deafening concussive roar that ripped through the stale, fetid air of the hidden basement. Shards of twisted metal and splintered wood flew violently across the confined space, propelled by an unseen explosive force, scattering like deadly shrapnel. Through the lingering haze of dust and debris, a figure emerged, a silhouette of raw, unbridled power and terrifying intent. It was Nicholas Rossi, his face a grim mask, slick with the sheen of sweat and contorted by an incandescent fury that seemed to radiate from his very core, a palpable aura of vengeance. He burst into the room, a force of nature unleashed, his weapon already spitting fire, the sharp, percussive reports of gunfire echoing like thunderclaps in the enclosed space, deafening and disorienting. His elite, loyal men, a phalanx of hardened warriors, followed his lead without hesitation, their own weapons held high, poised and ready to unleash their deadly payloads, moving with practiced, brutal efficiency. The cacophony was overwhelming. The relentless, staccato rhythm of automatic gunfire, the desperate, guttural shouts of men caught in a sudden, brutal ambush, the sickening thud of bodies collapsing onto the grimy concrete floor, each impact a final, chilling punctuation mark. Blood, a stark crimson contrast against the drab, decaying surroundings, splattered across the walls and floor, painting a gruesome tableau of sudden, violent death, a testament to the ferocity of the assault. Piercing screams of sheer, unadulterated terror and profound despair tore through the suffocating air, each cry a testament to the horror unfolding, a symphony of human suffering. Amidst this maelstrom of chaos and destruction, a fragile, broken figure lay chained to a rusted, grimy bed. It was Gabriella, her young body tragically exposed, a canvas of fresh, angry bruises and older, faded scars that told a silent, agonizing story of prolonged, unspeakable torment. Her eyes, once perhaps bright and full of life, were now hollow, vacant pools, utterly devoid of any flicker of hope, reflecting only the crushing weight of endless suffering, the resignation of a spirit long since broken. She had long since surrendered to the bleak reality of her existence, expecting nothing but further pain, further degradation, further dehumanization. Yet, as her gaze, dulled by trauma and despair, slowly registered the imposing figure of Nicholas Rossi, something profound and utterly unexpected stirred within her. An almost imperceptible yet undeniable shift occurred in her ravaged face, a flicker of recognition, a spark of something she couldn't yet name. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, for the first time in countless agonizing months of relentless abuse, she saw someone who had not come to inflict further pain upon her, someone whose presence did not promise more suffering, more violation. His eyes, though fierce and intense, held a strange, unsettling intensity that was devoid of the predatory lust or cold contempt she had grown to anticipate from every man who entered her space. With a swift, decisive motion, Nicholas, using his own powerful bare hands, tore through the heavy, rusted chains that bound her, the metallic clang echoing faintly amidst the dying sounds of battle, a sound of liberation, a breaking of bonds. He then gently, yet urgently, wrapped her trembling, fragile form in his own heavy, dark coat, a gesture of protection that felt alien yet profoundly comforting, shielding her from the cold, the chaos, and the prying eyes of the world. Scooping her up with a tenderness that utterly belied his fearsome reputation as a ruthless crime boss, he cradled her protectively in his arms and carried her out of that hellish, suffocating basement, away from the stench of her captivity and the echoes of her torment. Behind them, the hungry orange flames, ignited by the explosive breach, began their relentless, consuming dance, rapidly devouring the establishment, erasing the physical evidence of the atrocities committed within, purifying the space with fire, leaving nothing but ashes and a memory. This singular pivotal moment, etched forever into the fabric of their lives, was when everything irrevocably changed. This was the precise, life-altering instant when Gabriella, against all rational belief and the crushing weight of her past, discovered that a flicker of goodness, a fragile spark of humanity, still miraculously existed in this brutal, unforgiving world. And Nicholas, in that same transformative moment, discovered that there was still a part of his own hardened, cynical heart that held the potential for profound salvation, a chance at redemption he never knew he craved, a purpose beyond power and profit, a reason to be more than just a monster. Hello, I am Rose Cameron, and here on this channel, we are dedicated to unearthing and sharing stories of profound redemption, unwavering love, and extraordinary courage that possess the power to truly transform lives. If you cherish narratives that deeply touch the heart, stir the deepest emotions, and challenge the very essence of the soul, then I urge you to please subscribe to our channel, give this video a heartfelt like to show your support, and share it widely with anyone you believe needs to hear these powerful, inspiring stories of human resilience. Nicholas Rossi was, by no stretch of the imagination, a man who could be described as good. His reputation preceded him like a dark, suffocating cloud, a testament to the ruthless efficiency with which he operated, a name whispered in hushed tones of fear and respect throughout the city's underbelly. At the relatively young age of 30, he had already meticulously constructed an empire, a vast and insidious dominion forged from the raw materials of blood, illicit money, and the shattered lives of countless individuals. This empire stretched its tendrils across the unforgiving, labyrinthine streets of Philadelphia, a city that knew his name and feared its implications, where his word was law and his wrath was legendary. As the undisputed, iron-fisted head of the local Mafia, his hands were not merely stained, they were irrevocably steeped in the sins and transgressions of hundreds, perhaps thousands of men who operated under his cold, calculating command, each act of violence a direct consequence of his will. He issued orders for brutal executions with the same casual, detached indifference one might use to order a simple cup of coffee, his voice devoid of emotion, his eyes betraying no flicker of hesitation, no hint of remorse. He systematically destroyed families, tearing them apart at their very seams, leaving behind a trail of devastation and despair, all without so much as a blink of remorse in his cold, calculating gaze, his heart seemingly impervious to human suffering. He was, in essence, the living embodiment of evil walking on 2 feet, a formidable and ruthless predator who had perfected the chilling art of smiling charmingly, even disarmingly, even as his finger tightened inexorably on the trigger, sealing another person's fate with a casual flick. His world was one of power, control, and absolute ruthlessness, where sentiment was a weakness to be exploited and mercy an unknown concept, a dangerous illusion. Yet, even the darkest and most hardened men, those who have seemingly shed every vestige of their humanity, possess a hidden boundary, a critical, unspoken threshold beyond which even they, in their twisted moral code, refuse to tread. For Nicholas Rossi, that precise, unyielding breaking point arrived with chilling clarity and an unexpected jolt of moral outrage when he uncovered the unspeakable, monstrous atrocities that his rival, Silas Thorne, was perpetrating. It was a line even he, the notorious crime boss, could not cross, a depravity that stirred something long dormant within his hardened soul, a flicker of something akin to conscience. Silas Thorne was not just another competitor. He was Nicholas's most dangerous, insidious, and utterly depraved rival, a man whose ambition knew no bounds and whose morality was utterly non-existent. He was a man who had, ironically, risen from the very same brutal, unforgiving streets as Nicholas, navigating the treacherous underworld with a cunning and ruthlessness that mirrored Rossi's own, yet twisted to a far more sinister purpose. However, Silas had deliberately chosen a path that was even more profoundly dark, morally bankrupt, and utterly soul-crushing than anything Nicholas had ever conceived. A path that delved into the deepest pits of human exploitation. While Nicholas meticulously controlled the traditionally lucrative trades of narcotics distribution, illegal gambling operations, and the pervasive protection rackets that extorted businesses across the city, Silas had unearthed a business venture that was not only far more profitable in its sheer scale of human exploitation, but also infinitely more depraved and monstrous in its core. He had become, in the most literal and horrifying sense, a human trafficker, a merchant of despair, trading in the flesh and freedom of the innocent, a modern-day slave owner. Specifically, his vile and extensive operation involved the systematic capture of vulnerable young women, often lured by false promises of work or a better life, or outright abduction from their homes and families. He would then forcibly imprison them within the squalid, hidden confines of his network of seedy nightlife establishments, places that outwardly appeared as legitimate clubs, but secretly functioned as modern-day slave markets, their true purpose concealed beneath a veneer of neon lights and loud music. There, these terrified women were coerced through brutal physical force, psychological manipulation, and constant threats into a life of forced prostitution, their bodies and spirits utterly broken, their wills systematically eroded. Dozens of men, night after agonizing night, would pass through their lives, leaving behind only deeper layers of trauma, degradation, and despair, each encounter a fresh wound. These women were brutally beaten, often to within an inch of their lives. If they dared to refuse a client or attempted to resist their captors, their defiance met with swift, merciless violence. They were systematically drugged, their minds clouded and their wills shattered, to ensure they remained docile, compliant, and utterly subservient to their tormentors, their consciousness dulled to prevent escape or rebellion. They were branded, sometimes literally with tattoos or scars, but always metaphorically, as mere property, stripped of their inherent humanity, their dignity, and their very identities, reduced to commodities. In the cold, calculating, and utterly dehumanizing eyes of Silas Thorne, they were considered less than human, disposable commodities in his monstrous, sprawling enterprise of suffering. Their lives held no value beyond the profit they generated, their pain was irrelevant, and their pleas for mercy were met with brutal indifference, a chilling testament to his utter lack of empathy. Nicholas stumbled upon the full, horrifying truth of Silas's operation entirely by a stroke of grim chance, a twist of fate that would forever alter his hardened perspective and challenge the very foundations of his own criminal morality, forcing him to confront a darkness even he found abhorrent. One of his most trusted and long-serving men, a street-hardened enforcer named Marcus, had ventured into one of Silas's notorious nightclubs under the guise of conducting routine reconnaissance, a standard procedure to gauge the rival's strength and activities, to gather intelligence. What Marcus witnessed within those dimly lit, smoke-filled walls, and more disturbingly, in the hidden depths beneath, left him so profoundly disturbed, utterly sickened, and morally outraged that he immediately sought out Nicholas in person. His usual stoic demeanor was shattered. His eyes, usually hard and unyielding, were now brimming with unshed tears, his voice trembling with a raw, desperate emotion as he recounted the horrors and desperately pleaded for Nicholas to intervene, to do something, anything, to stop the unspeakable evil that was unfolding. Marcus, his voice barely a whisper at times, choked with emotion, recounted a chilling tableau of young women, some barely out of their teens, chained in dark, dank, suffocating basements, their bodies emaciated and scarred, their spirits visibly broken. He described women with eyes that were utterly vacant and lifeless, their spirits so utterly and completely shattered that they no longer possessed the capacity even to scream, their voices having been stolen by prolonged terror and despair, leaving only silent suffering. He vividly described one woman in particular, a young soul named Gabriella, barely 21 years old, whose story was a microcosm of the larger tragedy, a testament to the depths of human cruelty. She had been cruelly and callously sold into this living hell by her own family, a desperate, unforgivable sacrifice made to settle their insurmountable gambling debts, a betrayal that cut deeper than any physical wound, leaving an indelible scar on her soul. Gabriella, before this nightmare had consumed her, had been a bright, ambitious nursing student, brimming with aspirations of helping others, of dedicating her life to healing and making a positive difference in the world, a future now brutally stolen. Now, she was nothing more than Silas Thorne's chattel, a piece of property, brutally abused by dozens of men every single night, mercilessly beaten whenever she dared to attempt resistance, her body a vessel for others' depravity, and systematically drugged into a state of perpetual, terrifying submission. Her dreams extinguished, her future stolen, her very essence diminished. When Marcus finally concluded his harrowing, gut-wrenching account, the silence that descended upon Nicholas's opulent office was heavy, suffocating, and charged with an almost palpable tension, a stillness that spoke volumes. Nicholas, a man whose emotional landscape was usually barren, a wasteland of calculated indifference, felt a visceral surge of emotion that he hadn't experienced in years, perhaps decades. It wasn't the familiar, cold anger born of territorial disputes, financial greed, or a perceived disrespect to his authority. The kind of anger that usually fueled his criminal enterprises and led to swift, brutal retaliation, a predictable response. No, this was a righteous indignation, a pure, incandescent rage ignited by the absolute, unforgivable, and utterly dehumanizing injustice of it all. A moral affront so profound that it pierced through the thick armor of his cynicism and ruthlessness, reaching a part of him he thought long dead. It was a moral affront so profound that it pierced through the thick armor of his cynicism and ruthlessness. Without a moment's hesitation, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with a newfound, dangerous resolve, a cold fire of determination, he summoned his most capable, most loyal, and most brutal men, gathering them in a clandestine, heavily guarded meeting, their faces grim, awaiting his command. Together, they meticulously planned an invasion. But this would be no ordinary raid, no simple territorial skirmish. This would not be a mere business operation, a territorial skirmish, or a simple show of force to assert dominance, a display of power for profit. This, Nicholas declared with grim, unwavering determination, his voice low but resonating with an unshakable conviction that filled the room, would be nothing short of a full-scale war. A war not for profit, not for territory, but for something far more primal, a twisted sense of justice, a brutal reckoning for the innocent, a cleansing fire against an unspeakable evil. The night of the invasion descended upon Philadelphia cloaked in a relentless, unforgiving sheet of heavy rain. The usually bustling, vibrant streets of the city were eerily deserted, transformed into a desolate landscape, save for the rhythmic, monotonous drumming of water cascading into overflowing storm drains and the faint, mournful wail of distant, unseen sirens, their cries swallowed by the relentless downpour, adding to the somber atmosphere. Nicholas and his hand-picked crew, a formidable unit of hardened enforcers, strategically positioned themselves around Silas's notorious club, a fortress of depravity that pulsed with the dark energy of its hidden secrets, its facade belying the horrors within. They were not merely armed, they were an arsenal unto themselves, equipped with powerful military-grade explosives, an array of high-caliber automatic weapons, and, perhaps most potently, a burning determination that blazed within each man like an unquenchable, vengeful fire, a shared resolve to eradicate the evil they faced. The moment the prearranged signal was given, a silent nod from Nicholas, a subtle gesture understood by his men, the carefully orchestrated chaos erupted with terrifying precision. The formidable steel door, designed to be impenetrable, was obliterated, torn from its heavy hinges with a deafening metallic roar that echoed through the night, a sound of absolute breach. Gunshots immediately began to rip through the air, A relentless, deafening barrage that drowned out the sound of the rain, a symphony of destruction. Silas's men, caught completely off guard, their defenses breached, stood absolutely no chance. They were cut down like mere paper targets. Their resistance futile, their lives extinguished in a hail of bullets, their bodies falling without a sound. Nicholas, his face a grim, unyielding mask of barely contained fury, his senses heightened by the adrenaline and the stench of gunpowder, descended personally into the suffocating, putrid depths of the basement. The air grew heavier, thicker with the stench of decay, fear, and something far more sinister, a palpable evil that clung to the very walls. And there, in the dim, flickering light, chained to a filthy, rusted bed, her young body a tragic canvas of fresh, angry bruises and older, faded scars, was Gabriella, a ghost of her former self, waiting for an end she no longer believed would come, her eyes reflecting only the dim light of her despair. Her vacant, traumatized eyes, which had witnessed more horror than any human should ever endure, slowly lifted and met his. In that singular, suspended moment, amidst the lingering echoes of violence and the acrid smell of gunpowder, time itself seemed to halt, holding its breath, as if the universe paused to witness this improbable connection between predator and victim. Gabriella, conditioned by months of unspeakable torment, braced herself instinctively for more pain, more degradation, more abuse, her body tensing, preparing for the inevitable. She had long since learned through the crucible of relentless suffering to expect nothing but relentless cruelty from every human interaction, every touch, every glance, every shadow that fell upon her. But when her gaze, dulled by trauma and despair, truly registered the imposing figure of Nicholas Rossi, something profound, utterly unexpected, and deeply unsettling stirred within her ravaged face. An almost imperceptible yet undeniable shift occurred. A flicker of recognition, a spark of something she couldn't name, a nascent hope. Perhaps it was the way he looked at her, not with the predatory lust or cold, dismissive contempt she had grown accustomed to, the gaze of a man who saw only a commodity, but with a profound, almost overwhelming compassion that threatened to shatter her fragile composure entirely. A tenderness she had forgotten existed. His eyes, though fierce and intense, held a strange, unsettling depth that was devoid of the usual darkness she associated with men of his ilk, a glimmer of humanity. With a swift, decisive motion, Nicholas, using his own powerful, calloused, bare hands, tore through the heavy, rusted chains that bound her, the metallic clang echoing faintly amidst the dying sounds of battle, a sound of liberation, a breaking of bonds that had held her captive. He then gently, yet urgently, wrapped her trembling, fragile form in his own heavy, dark coat, a gesture of protection that felt alien yet profoundly comforting, shielding her from the cold, the chaos, and the prying eyes of the world, a cloak of safety. Scooping her up with a tenderness that utterly belied his fearsome reputation as a ruthless crime boss, he cradled her protectively in his arms and carried her out of that hellish, suffocating basement, away from the stench of her captivity and the echoes of her torment, towards an unknown future. Behind them, the hungry, orange flames ignited by the explosive breach began their relentless, consuming dance, rapidly devouring the establishment, erasing the physical evidence of the atrocities committed within, purifying the space with fire, leaving nothing but ashes and a memory. In that precise, life-altering instant, etched forever into the fabric of their lives, Gabriella, against all rational belief and the crushing weight of her past, discovered that a flicker of goodness, a fragile spark of humanity, still miraculously existed in this brutal, unforgiving world. And Nicholas, in that same transformative moment, discovered that there was still a part of his own hardened, cynical heart that held the potential for profound salvation, a chance at redemption he never knew he craved, a purpose beyond power and profit, a reason to be more than just a monster. However, the dramatic rescue, while a monumental and terrifying first step, was merely the beginning of an arduous, deeply challenging, and emotionally draining journey for both of them. Gabriella was so profoundly traumatized by her prolonged ordeal that she could barely utter a single coherent word, her voice having been stolen by fear and disuse, her vocal cords seemingly paralyzed by the trauma. Her body trembled incessantly, a constant, involuntary physical manifestation of the deep-seated terror and psychological wounds she had endured, a tremor that never quite left her. She was plagued by horrific, vivid nightmares that would jolt her awake in the dead of night, screaming, her mind relentlessly replaying the unspeakable horrors she had witnessed and suffered, trapping her in a cycle of fear. The mere thought of being confined in a closed room, even a safe one, would trigger debilitating panic attacks, trapping her in a suffocating cage of fear and claustrophobia, her breath catching in her throat. Nicholas, understanding the immense depth of her physical and psychological wounds, acted swiftly and decisively, demonstrating a foresight and compassion few would have expected. He immediately took her to a secure safe house, an isolated, sprawling mansion nestled far outside the bustling city limits, a sanctuary specifically chosen to be a haven where no one, especially not Silas's remaining vengeful associates or any prying eyes from the underworld, could ever find her. A fortress of healing. He spared absolutely no expense, demonstrating a level of care that shocked even his closest men, providing her with every conceivable comfort and resource. He hired the most skilled and compassionate doctors, experienced psychologists specializing in trauma recovery, and dedicated nurses to attend to her every physical and emotional need, creating a bespoke team of healers, all focused on her well-being. He, personally, would sit by her bedside every single night, a silent, imposing guardian, holding her hand gently as she finally drifted into a fitful sleep, silently protecting her not just from external threats, but from the relentless, insidious demons that haunted her own shattered mind, a silent vigil of unexpected tenderness and unwavering commitment. Weeks slowly, painstakingly, transformed into months, each day a small, incremental victory in Gabriella's long, arduous road to recovery. Gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, she began to regain her appetite, finding the strength and desire to eat again, her body slowly reclaiming its vitality, its strength returning. The dull, lifeless quality that had once clouded her eyes began to recede, replaced by a faint, nascent glimmer of color. A fragile spark of life returning to their depths, a reflection of her slowly mending spirit. She started to speak, initially in fragile, barely audible whispers, her voice raspy from disuse and fear, then slowly progressing to complete, coherent sentences, each word a triumph over her trauma, a reclaiming of her voice. Nicholas remained a constant, unwavering presence by her side throughout this agonizing process, embodying a patience and unwavering gentleness that few would have ever attributed to the ruthless crime boss, a side of him only Gabriella saw. He never demanded anything from her, his sole, unwavering focus being her complete and holistic recovery, her return to herself, to the woman she was meant to be. He would read aloud to her, his deep, gravelly voice a surprisingly soothing balm, filling the quiet rooms with stories that transported her, if only for a moment, away from her past, into worlds of imagination and peace. He would take her for quiet, restorative walks through the expansive, meticulously manicured gardens of the mansion, allowing her to reconnect with the natural world, to feel the sun on her skin and the breeze in her hair, to experience simple joys again. He listened intently, without judgment, his formidable presence a silent anchor, as she haltingly recounted fragmented stories of her life before the nightmare, of her cherished dreams of becoming a nurse, of the profound and unforgivable betrayal she had suffered at the hands of her own family, each memory a painful step towards healing. And with each passing day, with every shared moment of quiet understanding, every gentle gesture of care, Gabriella slowly, tentatively, began to trust again, a fragile, precious trust that was painstakingly rebuilt from the ashes of her despair, a foundation for a new life. She started to believe, against all the evidence of her past, that perhaps, just perhaps, life could offer something more profound and meaningful than mere brutal survival. That there could be joy, peace, and even love, a future she once thought impossible. But even amidst this fragile, burgeoning hope and the slow, arduous process of healing, an ominous, ever-present shadow loomed, threatening to engulf everything they had painstakingly built, to shatter the delicate peace they had found. Vincent Thorne, the younger, equally ruthless and far more volatile brother of Silas, had sworn a solemn, blood-soaked oath of vengeance. His mind, consumed by grief and a burning desire for retribution, could not comprehend the concept of moving on, of letting go. He craved only blood for blood. He had witnessed his brother's vast illicit empire crumble into dust, reduced to ashes by Nicholas's brutal intervention, a personal affront he could not forgive. He had seen his own flesh and blood, Silas, meet a violent, ignominious end, a death he attributed solely to Nicholas Rossi, fueling his unhinged fury. And he had vowed, with every fiber of his being, with every dark thought that consumed him, that he would make Nicholas suffer in precisely the same agonizing, drawn-out manner that Nicholas had made his brother suffer, a promise of prolonged torment. Vincent was a man of chilling patience, a predator who understood the art of the hunt, but also one prone to sudden, explosive bursts of violence, making him unpredictable and extremely dangerous. He waited for weeks, meticulously observing Nicholas's movements, cunningly planning his attack, biding his time, patiently anticipating the absolutely perfect moment to strike, a moment when Nicholas would be most vulnerable, when his guard might be down, when Gabriella might be exposed. The underworld whispered of his intent, a chilling prophecy of impending bloodshed, a storm gathering on the horizon. What would happen when he finally made his move, when his carefully laid plans for revenge finally culminated in a confrontation? Would Nicholas be ready for the full force of Vincent's unhinged fury? Or would Gabriella, the innocent catalyst, become the ultimate target in this deadly game of retribution, the final, tragic sacrifice? The air was thick with unspoken tension, a silent countdown to an inevitable, violent clash that promised to test the limits of their newfound peace. That meticulously planned, terrifying moment finally arrived on a deceptively serene, sun-drenched afternoon, a day that outwardly promised peace, but inwardly harbored deadly intent, a cruel irony. Gabriella, her spirit finding a rare, fleeting moment of tranquility, was peacefully tending to the vibrant, fragrant flowers in the mansion's sprawling, meticulously manicured garden. The sun warmed her skin, the gentle breeze rustled through her hair, and for a brief instant, she allowed herself to feel a semblance of normalcy, a fragile joy, a moment of pure, unadulterated peace she hadn't known in years, a precious respite. It was then, without warning, that Vincent Thorne materialized from the dense foliage at the edge of the garden, a specter of vengeance made flesh, his presence a sudden, jarring intrusion into her fragile sanctuary, shattering the illusion of safety. He held a menacing, dark weapon firmly in his hand, its cold steel glinting ominously in the sunlight, a harbinger of death, and his eyes, burning with an infernal, unquenchable hatred, were fixed solely and unequivocally on her, a target of his brother's demise, a pawn in his twisted game of retribution. Gabriella let out a piercing, guttural scream, a desperate, primal cry for help that tore through the peaceful afternoon, ripping the tranquility to shreds. But it was already too late. Vincent had closed the distance with terrifying speed, his intent clear, his finger already tightening on the trigger. The sharp, deafening crack of a single gunshot reverberated violently through the tranquil garden, shattering the peace, echoing off the mansion walls. A sound that promised an end, a finality. Yet, in a twist of fate that defied all expectations, a miracle born of vigilance and love, it was not Gabriella who crumpled to the ground, her life tragically cut short. Instead, it was Vincent Thorne who fell, his body collapsing lifelessly onto the soft grass, a single, fatal bullet wound to his head, his vengeful mission abruptly terminated, his hatred extinguished. The shot had been fired by Nicholas, who had arrived mere seconds before, a guardian angel in the guise of a devil, his own weapon still smoking, his face a mask of grim determination and protective fury, his eyes blazing with a fierce resolve. Nicholas had been meticulously observing Gabriella the entire time, his instincts honed by years in the underworld, his senses acutely aware of any potential threat, anticipating precisely such a treacherous, cowardly attack, a silent sentinel. He had protected her, just as he had solemnly, silently promised he would, his actions speaking louder than any words, a vow fulfilled in blood and fire, a testament to his unwavering commitment. When the immediate palpable danger had finally receded, when the echoes of the gunshot had faded into the stunned, heavy silence, and Vincent Thorne's lifeless form lay still, a chilling testament to the brutal justice served, Nicholas, his face etched with a complex mixture of profound relief, lingering adrenaline, and an overwhelming surge of emotion, slowly knelt before Gabriella. Her body was trembling uncontrollably, not from fear of Vincent any longer, but from the sheer shock of the near miss, the sudden, brutal confrontation, and the overwhelming realization of Nicholas's unwavering, fierce protection, a truth that resonated deep within her. He reached into the inner pocket of his tailored jacket and retrieved a small velvet box, its dark surface a stark contrast to the bright afternoon, a symbol of a future he now dared to imagine, a future built on hope. Inside, nestled on a cushion of soft white satin, was a diamond ring, elegantly simple in its design, yet breathtakingly beautiful in its sparkle, a symbol of purity, enduring commitment, and a love that had defied all odds, a love that had blossomed in the most unlikely of places. He looked deeply into her eyes, his own filled with a raw, undeniable love that had grown from the most unlikely of circumstances, a love that had blossomed in the shadow of violence and despair, a love that had redeemed him, transforming his very soul. He asked Gabriella, with a voice that was surprisingly steady despite the recent chaos, a voice filled with hope and conviction, to be his wife, to share a future that, just months ago, had seemed utterly impossible, a dream too fragile to even contemplate, now within their grasp. And she, her face streaked with tears, tears of overwhelming joy, profound gratitude, and a newfound exhilarating hope that illuminated her entire being, said yes. She said yes because she had learned, through the crucible of her unimaginable suffering and the unexpected profound kindness of this formidable man, that true love was not merely about superficial romance or fleeting passion. It was about profound, unwavering protection. Yes, but it was also about profound, transformative redemption. It was the precious, miraculous chance to begin anew, to forge a different path, to build a life from the ashes of her past, a life filled with purpose and genuine connection. It was the transformative opportunity to transmute unimaginable suffering into an unyielding, resilient strength, to find beauty in the broken pieces, and to build a future where love could truly heal all wounds. A future they would build together, brick by painful brick, with unwavering commitment and boundless love. They exchanged their sacred vows in a small, intimate ceremony, a private affair attended only by their closest, most trusted friends, and a select few family members who truly understood the depth and extraordinary nature of their journey, a testament to their unique bond. The world of the Mafia, with its violence and darkness, was kept at bay, replaced by an atmosphere of genuine warmth and quiet celebration, a stark contrast to Nicholas's former life. Gabriella, radiant and ethereal, wore a pristine white dress, a powerful and poignant symbol of her new beginning, a testament to the purity of her reclaimed life and the hope she now embodied, a vision of renewed innocence. Nicholas, usually stoic and unreadable, his emotions carefully guarded, gazed upon her with an intensity that conveyed she was, to him, the most precious, invaluable, and utterly irreplaceable thing in the entire world, his anchor, his salvation. And perhaps, in a profound and spiritual sense, she truly was. For she had not only survived the unimaginable horrors of hell itself, emerging from its depths with an unbreakable spirit, but had also, against all odds, found her angel, her protector, in the most unexpected and unlikely of places, in the heart of a man once considered a devil, a man transformed by love. And he, in turn, had descended into that very same hell, confronted his own inherent darkness, and in doing so, had miraculously found his profound and much-needed redemption, a purpose that transcended his criminal past, a love that purified his soul and gave his life new meaning. Their union was a testament to the transformative power of human connection, a beacon of hope in a world often consumed by despair, a living miracle. In the years that followed their extraordinary union, a period marked by profound personal growth, unwavering commitment, and a relentless pursuit of a new, honorable purpose, Nicholas embarked on a monumental and deeply personal mission to utterly transform his once sordid, blood-soaked empire. This was no mere rebranding or superficial change. It was a complete dismantling of his old life and a meticulous rebuilding from the ground up, driven by a newfound moral compass and an unshakable desire to atone for his past, to make amends for the darkness he had once propagated. He systematically extricated himself from the insidious drug trade, severing all ties to that destructive business, understanding intimately the immense suffering it caused to countless families and communities, a suffering he now sought to alleviate. He meticulously shut down his illegal gambling operations and pervasive protection rackets, dismantling the very foundations of his criminal past, choosing a path of legitimacy and ethical conduct, a decision that sent shockwaves through the underworld, challenging old norms. Instead, he channeled his vast accumulated wealth, his formidable influence, and his unparalleled organizational skills once used for illicit gain, into a new, noble purpose: to actively help other vulnerable women who had been trafficked, just as Gabriella had been. This became his life's work, his profound penance, and his burning passion, a way to honor Gabriella's resilience and to make amends for the darkness he had once embodied, a legacy of light from a past of shadows. He established a powerful, far-reaching foundation, proudly bearing Gabriella's name, a living testament to her indomitable spirit and their shared commitment to justice, a symbol of hope for countless others. This foundation was dedicated entirely to the courageous rescue of human trafficking victims, providing them with immediate safety, comprehensive medical care, intensive psychological support, and the crucial educational and vocational resources needed to painstakingly rebuild their shattered lives, offering them a second chance at dignity, freedom, and a future they never thought possible. Gabriella, fulfilling her lifelong aspiration, finally became a registered nurse, just as she had always dreamed. Her innate compassion and empathy deepened exponentially by her own harrowing experiences, making her uniquely suited to this work. She dedicated her boundless compassion, her invaluable medical expertise, and her unwavering spirit to working tirelessly within the foundation, becoming a beacon of hope herself, a living example of survival and triumph. She guided and empowered other women, sharing her story and her strength, helping them to discover the same profound hope, healing, and sense of self-worth that she herself had miraculously found, a cycle of healing and empowerment. But what formidable challenges would they inevitably face in this new, legitimate world? A world still rife with darkness, corruption, and the lingering dangers of Nicholas's former life. Could their past ever truly be left behind? Or would the insidious shadows of his former life continue to haunt their noble endeavors, testing their resolve, their commitment, and the very strength of their extraordinary love? forcing them to confront new threats. The path to true, lasting redemption is rarely smooth or easy, and the fight against such deep-seated, pervasive evil is an ongoing, relentless battle, demanding constant vigilance, unwavering courage, and an unshakable belief in the power of good to overcome even the darkest forces, a battle they were prepared to fight together. Their story, by no means, is a simplistic, saccharine fairy tale, devoid of hardship or pain, glossing over the brutal realities they faced. It is, instead, a profound, complex, and deeply moving narrative of hard-won redemption, of courage forged in the fires of adversity, and of love that blossoms in the most unexpected and darkest corners of human experience, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is a powerful testament that demonstrates, unequivocally, that even in the most desolate and darkest corners of existence, amidst the deepest despair, a radiant, transformative light can still pierce through the gloom and shine brightly, illuminating the path forward, offering guidance. It illustrates, with poignant clarity, that even within the most hardened and seemingly impenetrable hearts, those scarred by violence and cynicism, the tender blossoms of love can miraculously take root, flourish, and ultimately purify, transforming even the most hardened souls. And most importantly, it offers an enduring, vital message that even after enduring the most profound, soul-crushing suffering imaginable, true healing, though arduous, painstaking, and often fraught with setbacks, is undeniably possible. Their journey stands as a beacon, a living proof that hope, even when seemingly extinguished, can always be rekindled, and that the human spirit, when nurtured by love and purpose, possesses an astonishing capacity for resilience and renewal, a boundless strength that can overcome anything. I am Rose Cameron, and here on this channel, we are dedicated to unearthing and sharing stories that deeply touch the soul, stories that resonate with the human spirit and inspire profound reflection, offering insight and hope. If you were moved by this powerful narrative of redemption, unwavering love, and the triumph of the human spirit, then I sincerely urge you to please subscribe to our channel to join our growing community. Give this video a heartfelt like to show your appreciation and support, and share it widely with someone you believe truly needs to hear that hope. No matter how dim or distant it may seem, never truly dies. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being a part of our journey. I look forward to connecting with you in the next video, where we will explore another extraordinary tale of human resilience and transformation.